Yeah, this is December 2016. So really launched January 2017, like my side hustle. And that combined with my day job, I was able to pay off like 35 grand in debt in 6 months.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 79 of the Andrew Deitch podcast. It's a beautiful but a very windy day here in Alpharetta, Georgia. I really wanted to go out and fly my drone today, but the skies are like super clear right now, but the wind is just too crazy, and I do not want to crash it. But anyways, I hope you guys are all having a fantastic Monday. I know I am. If this is your first time joining me here, welcome. Thank you so much. My mission here is to have meaningful conversations with the most fascinating people that I know. I meet up with them in person, and you get to be a fly on the wall and join in during the conversations. Nothing's off limits, and we dive deep into what makes these people so special. And one thing that makes most of my guests so special is their interesting side hustles, right? And it seems like everybody these days has a side hustle thing they're working on besides their day job. It's an amazing way to create some extra cash and also make your life a little more secure, a little extra cash on the side. And my side hustle is constantly evolving. And I'm excited to say that this podcast has opened so many doors for me and introduced me to so many people. But with that being said, my guest today is Ryan Helms. And he's somebody who not only has a very successful side hustle, but he's created a tool called the Side Hustle Journal that gives 9-to-5ers a system to turn their business idea into a reality, no matter how busy they are. And after a spontaneous trip to Africa, he realized that he needed to get his shit together and create a system so that he could have the freedom to take more trips and experience more out of life. And he created a rough draft of what would eventually become the Side Hustle Journal. And like you heard in the intro, he was able to pay off $35,000 in debt in 6 months by simply executing on his ideas. It was insane. So he's also the host of the Hustle to Freedom podcast that's going to be launching in exactly 2 weeks from today, March 26th. And I'm excited to say that I'm going to be one of the first guests on his show. Super exciting stuff. He's got an amazing story, and I know you're all going to get a lot of value out of this episode. So without any further ado, please welcome my friend, Ryan Helms. All right, we're live.
We're live.
All right, awesome, man. Well, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude, of course. Well, I actually, just to give people some context, I just met you like a couple days ago.
Yeah.
We're talking about podcast stuff. Yeah. You're starting a podcast here pretty soon. And, you kind of told me your story, told me what you're doing, and I was like, dude, I think you'd be a good fit for the podcast. I think people would enjoy hearing what you're doing, hearing what you're up to.
And we didn't waste any time. Here we are.
No, here we are. That was just a couple of days ago. It was like, what, like 2 days ago?
Yeah, 2 days ago.
That's awesome, man. That happens a lot with my podcast planning. A lot of times people want to plan it weeks out and all this stuff, and that's fine. But sometimes it's just like, yo, I'm open tomorrow. Yeah. Want to do it then?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Everybody's busy, right? You find a spot that works and connect.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, cool, man. Well, like I said, I kind of heard your story, but just so people kind of know what you're up to currently, kind of give people an idea of who you are and what you do, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I guess by day, I'm in the supply chain field, so I help things move around the world. So that's kind of the day job. And then by night, I guess you would say I'm a part-time side hustler. So I try to do things on the side to help out with what I call career insurance. So create alternate sources of income and things like that. So that's kind of what I'm doing, and I'm doing that in a couple ways, and we'll get into that. But one of the primary ways right now is the Side Hustle Journal, which is a Kickstarter that I launched in November, so 4 months ago. So time flies, but so yeah, that's kind of what I'm focusing on now, is building out that product and some things around that product.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the Side Hustle Journal, so that's like a journal for people. Kind of explain that for people.
So primarily, we're all busy. We all have a lot going on in our life, and a lot of people can't, if they want to start a side hustle or a side business, whatever you want to call it, they can't because there's just so much going on in life, right? And they don't know where to start and how to get structure in their life. So it's essentially a tool to help you get structure in your life and get moving towards launching a successful business. And it's structured in a way that it helps facilitate that with some of the systems that are built into the journal.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, I definitely want to get into all that because I think not only just like the journal of it, but just like the psychology of a side hustle is really interesting. And I think a lot of people are, that's at the top of people's minds right now. But just to kind of give people some context of who you are, and actually I haven't even heard your full story or anything. We kind of, like I said, we just met, but just kind of take us back. Like, where did you kind of get your start? Where were you, not even have to get so much into like where you were born, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But, it helps give people some context of, where you come from and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So definitely born and raised in Georgia. So originally from Augusta up until 2014 when I moved to Atlanta. Came up here for the job that I have right now, which has been awesome, giving me more opportunities that I could have ever imagined at this stage in my career. But I've always just had like that desire to, release creativity, and I like building things. And with work, you can only build so many things that you get direct benefit from. And what I mean by like, if I build something at work or work on a project, right, my paycheck doesn't change. I get paid the same amount of money, whether I do something great or something okay. And that's what I like about starting your own side hustle. It's like the more effort you put in and the more time you spend building that, you can reap the direct rewards of that. So, I've probably since I moved up here in 2014, that's kind of where my mind's been going. And then I took a trip to Africa in 2016 that kind of jump started it all.
That's awesome, dude. So you were in Augusta, and when I think of Augusta, I think of Augusta National.
Yes.
So pretty big golf town.
Yes.
You play a lot of golf or not really?
I did growing up. So we lived on the second hole, like out of the front door of my parents' house, you could see the second hole. So like it would start.
The second hole of Augusta National?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was going to say, geez.
No.
I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
So there was tons of golf courses in Augusta.
Yeah.
So the one that we lived on, we would sneak out there like when the sun was about to start going down and try to play like hole 2 and then stop at hole 8 right before you got back to the clubhouse. Yep. So we would do that all the time.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I hadn't played in years though, to be honest.
That's fun. Yeah. One of my friends, actually, similar situation. He lived on like hole 12 or something like that. We'd play up to like 16 or 17 right before the clubhouse, right? And it was like getting to be pitch dark. Basically, you can't see the balls anymore.
Yep.
And we just play a few holes every night.
We got kicked off numerous times, but it was always fun. But yeah, that's definitely what Augusta is known for, is golf. It pretty much is built around like 1 week a year, which is the Augusta National Masters tournament.
That's cool. I actually got, not to go too off topic, but I got to go to a practice round of the Masters last year, and that was really cool because I'd never been to the Masters, never even been to Augusta really. So
yeah, the Masters is like a different world, right? When you walk in there, everything is just so perfect.
It's actually kind of absurd how perfect everything is. Like it's weird how it's just this temporary one event that just happens once a year, but everything is just like so pristine and so calculated and thought out and perfect. And like even like the snacks and the everyone like it is crazy. Like in the bathroom even there's like 5 attendants like cleaning up the urinal right after you go pee, and like literally they're trying to make it as clean, pristine and perfect as possible. And like it just puts you into another perspective. It actually kind of opened my eyes to like how perfect things could be.
Yeah, it's like a utopia, right?
Golf utopia.
It's even more of a utopia because the drinks and food aren't outrageously priced.
No.
Like you get a drink, you can get a beer, a sandwich, and chips for like $7.
Yep.
Like you can't go to a Braves game and get a beer for like $12.
Yeah, and that's an interesting perspective too, because like Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they kind of did that with their new pricing, like the drinks and stuff and food and everything's not super overpriced, but you also have to take into account how much the tickets themselves cost, and like getting to the Masters is a pretty big feat in and of itself. I'm sure living in Augusta, you got all kinds of connections, but from someone else. But anyways, so in Augusta, like you said, it's kind of like not a super small town, but like you're not like up in Atlanta,
Right.
You know what I mean? So how was that? What was that like growing up? Like, did you ever feel like you were ever going to move to Atlanta, a big city, or did you ever think you were just going to stick around?
I guess I don't know. That's a tough one to answer. Yes and no. But I really started to realize I wanted to move once I started seeing that. I mean, I've got some great friends. I still have some awesome friends there that are doing great, but there's a lot of complacency, right? In a smaller town that's not very transient. So there's people in Atlanta from everywhere live here, but there you've mainly got people from Augusta. People are very, they're just okay with where they are, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to be like to the next level. And I kind of realized that getting out and kind of separating myself from the crowd was part of that.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I feel like it could be very easy to get not trapped, but just like you said, kind of that complacency where you're just like everyone's kind of doing the same thing they've always done, and this is how things are, and
Yeah, and if you don't step back and like reflect on that, you'll never even notice it. You'll never even know that you're like complacent. You're just thinking like, oh yeah, we're doing great. Like, we hang out on the weekends. Like,
and not to take it to an extreme level or like a ridiculous level, but actually, me and my brother were talking about kind of similar things last night because. I was earlier today. I did a podcast with this lady who's like she's got some kind of out there beliefs. She's like a healer and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so I was telling him that we were talking about that, and I was like, it's weird because when you're in something like that, when you're in like any kind of belief system, you don't realize that you're in it. You just see what the outsiders look like, and it's almost like your perspective is just from where you grew up and all that. And like I said, not to take it to a crazy extreme, but this is just an example. Like if you grew up in like the sticks and all your cousins and brothers and grandpas and aunts and uncles are all racist, and maybe they're maybe they're Klansmen or something, it wouldn't be weird for you to join the Klan. Right. Like it wouldn't be like a strange thing, but that's just where you came from. And probably everyone around you don't see very many black people or whatever. And like I said, not to get too crazy political or anything, but that was just like an example.
I agree, man.
You wouldn't even realize that that's a weird thing until you take a big step back and realize like, oh, holy shit. Like I've been living this life of like hatred or whatever towards these people, and I don't even know them.
Yeah. And how we originally connected, and I don't think we actually met at the event, but the Entrepreneur Alliance event, that was kind of like a holy shit moment to me because, all these people are so normal and they're just killing it. And again, not everything is money and financially motivated, but these people are killing it financially, and you're just like, holy shit, like that it's insane some of the numbers that we were hearing. And it kind of goes back to the thing. I went back to Augusta and I was talking to my friend, and he didn't even know that you could make money in these type of ways. So it's kind of like what you were just getting at. Like you can only open your mind as far as you know that it can be opened, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, like you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you said you moved up here in 2014. Did you go to college, or was it like straight out of high school? What was the situation?
So I went to Georgia Southern. So
nice.
In the middle of absolute nowhere.
Yep, good old Statesboro.
Yeah. So it was a blast. It really was. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed school. I would get my PhD if I could. I enjoyed learning. It's the same. It's probably, thinking about it, it's one of the same reasons that I like, online business, right? Because you're constantly educating yourself on like, how do you do this? You don't really have a teacher, so you have to get out there and teach yourself. So I think that's partly what draws me to this environment. But I went to Statesboro in the middle of nowhere, and it was great.
That's awesome. Lots of partying.
Yes and no. I was actually one of the people that had to study. So like,
what was your major?
Supply chain. So actually, what I do is my career right now.
Nice.
But none of it came, I'll say, naturally, right? I wasn't one of them people that went to class, took the test, did good. Like I went to class, studied my ass off, then took the test and did okay.
Yeah, but honestly, I think it's weird. Like, there's some people that are just naturally, like, they're just good at school, and like, they don't really study, they just pick it up in class and all that. And I think sometimes that kind of comes to bite you in the butt later, because you never actually learn how to like study or learn how to learn. And not to put myself in the boat of like, oh my gosh, I'm some genius, but a lot like in in like middle school, high school, I really didn't like study that much, and I kind of just got like average, like these actually pretty good grades and stuff, but I never like learned how to like sit down and like focus and study. And that kind of came to bite me in the butt because I went to Georgia College in Milledgeville, and like it was like a whole nother thing because in the classes they didn't really teach you this stuff. You kind of had to like, it was more like discussion in the class, and then you went home and like read the book and learned the stuff there. And I was not used to that, and I'm like, what? This is crazy. But yeah, it is kind of an interesting thing. Like some people are just naturally like that, and some people you really got to study. But the cool thing is, I think when you really do have to like work really hard, it teaches you that work ethic that sometimes people just don't even learn.
Yeah.
And if things just come easy to you, you don't appreciate them. So that's actually kind of cool that you're saying that you worked your ass off.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I mean, I saw the same thing. Like people that I knew in high school that were like really, really good in high school, as soon as they got to college, I mean, they were like flunking out. And these were people where I was like, what the hell? How are they struggling? How am I getting B's and they're getting D's? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of the situation that explains it. Like you got some people that have just been gifted their whole life, and then they kind of reach this threshold of their natural talents, and then they've actually got to try, and they've never had to try before, and they just kind of fall flat on their face because they never like flex that muscle. And that just makes a lot of sense. But so you went to school, got your degree in supply chain, and then headed on up to good old ATL.
Yeah,
that's cool. So for people that are listening, so like even for me, I kind of get the idea of like what supply chain is and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, it's vastly more complex than I could probably explain it. But for people that are listening, like how would you kind of explain what, like you kind of briefly explained in the beginning, but how would you explain like what supply chain is and how your role plays in everybody's products and everything?
It's super important to everyone's life. So the term supply chain wasn't even a word until like I think the late 80s. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's around the late 80s when it got coined. It was always lumped up under like operations and manufacturing, but essentially it's the point between when widget A comes off of the manufacturing line till it gets in your hands, everything in between. So production planning, that's actually a part of supply chain as well. So the person who's saying, okay, we need to make X, Y, and Z. And then again, like I said, once it comes off of that manufacturing line, the warehousing, logistics, all of that stuff lumps under supply chain. So raw material purchasing, so all the stuff that goes into that widget, finished goods, inventory management, all that stuff is kind of under the realm of supply chain.
That's awesome. Yeah, and another thing that people don't even think about a lot of times is like, they're thinking about like, oh, well, my iPhone costs $1,000, and if you break it down, the price of all the pieces only costs like $10 or what, And actually, the new iPhones, they did a breakdown. It's about like $200-$300 or whatever for all the pieces, which I feel like is a pretty fair thing. Pay $1,000 for a pretty awesome phone. But the thing is too is that you don't think about is all the supply chain and all the people and man hours and work that goes into just getting the thing assembled and getting all the pieces together to make it that perfect device that ends up in your hand. Yeah. And then actually shipping it from China back to America, all that kind of stuff.
Which I'm going through right now with the fulfilling the Kickstarter. It's like, that stuff really adds up. So you have the cost to get it from, in this case, China to the US. Then it gets to my warehouse. They charge me just for storing it there. Then when I get an order, they charge me for picking it. Then I have to pay for shipping. That stuff adds up really quick. All the supply chain charges are probably 3 to 4x what my product actually costs.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy, but at least you're not having to like warehouse it out of your house or something.
Which was an option at one time, but I was like, where the hell would I put it? So for reference, we're sitting in a studio condo that's about 600 square feet right now, and it would have been a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool, man. So you came up to Atlanta, you got your job and everything, but when did you because I mean, looking around your apartment, like you said, or your condo right now, looking around, you've got your awesome little workstation, you got a Tribe of Mentors book, Tim Ferriss, you got a bunch of books. It seems like you're into self-development and all this stuff. You got the side hustle thing going on. Like when did that like shift happen for you where you kind of started getting into that entrepreneurial side of you? Because I think it's typically like kind of a gradual thing, thing, but what was the like catalyst for that kind of stuff?
In my case, there's a very specific catalyst. And it actually started about 10 feet from where we're at on the couch right over there on probably June 2016. I was sitting there, and between 2014 when I moved to Atlanta till that night, which was a Friday night, I was sitting there and like I had worked my ass off for those 2 years, and I don't want to say I was getting burnt out, but it was pretty close. Like I was like, man, like I'm working my ass off, and the money's not coming as fast as all the effort that I'm putting in.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there and I was scrolling through looking at flights to different places around the world and bought a plane ticket randomly to Nairobi, Kenya. Had no idea what I was going to do. Not a clue.
Just looking up cheap flights and found a pretty cheap one.
Yeah, for like $700 round trip from Atlanta to Nairobi, Kenya.
Wow.
So I bought it and I sat on it for 2.5 months. Like, didn't plan anything. I just knew I had a plane ticket, and I'd bought it for around Thanksgiving because I knew that would be the easiest time for me to take off work was around that time. So then probably September came and I was like, oh shit, I'm going to Africa. I better start planning something. So long story short, I went and I did a lot of like really amazing stuff. Went on a safari in Kenya. Then I went to an island off the coast of Tanzania called Zanzibar. And that's kind of where we get to the kind of catalyst for all this. When I was there, I met like a lot of people that were traveling the world, and a lot of them were doing it for different reasons. Like I'd met a guy that was like climbing the corporate ladder with his best friend in the same company, and they were doing awesome. And then his best friend died in a car crash. And then he was like, you know what, man, like this is cool and all, but there's so much more in life. He said he saved up for like 1.5 to 2 years, like paid off all his debt, and he was on an 18-month journey.
Wow.
And then I met a lot of people doing similar stuff to that. A lot of people traveling long term.
For sure.
And for me, it wasn't that necessarily that I wanted to travel for 2 years at a given stint, but I was like, I want like the ability to do that. If I wanted to do it,
integrate it into your lifestyle somehow.
Yeah, if I wanted to be able to like, pack up and sell this condo and sell my car and hit the road, like I wanted to be able to do that. So by the time I left there, I was like, for one, I had like student loan debt. I had a big car note, and just being done with money, you kind of, I guess you grow out of it, but by the time you realize that you're growing out of it, you have all this debt to worry about. So for me, that's kind of where the side hustle comes in. I was like, all right, I'm still in Africa at this point. I'm like, how can I like expedite the process of paying off this debt? Okay, I can work with my budget, and I make a pretty decent salary, so that'll be good. But if I want to do it faster, like what can I do? So I got back here, and I got back in December, so you had the holidays.
This is December 2016?
Yeah, this is December 2016. So really launched January 2017, like my side hustle. And that combined with my day job, I was able to pay off like 35 grand in debt in 6 months.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I paid off all my student loans, all my cars. So I had a 2017 Nissan 370Z. Like nice little sports car.
Oh yeah.
Now I've got a 2013 Honda Civic. Like, it's like I just reprioritized my life.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a big awakening. So that's kind of when I got into all this side hustle stuff. And when it started, I went to Africa and was like, man, if I want to travel the world, like, I can't do it with all these bills. Like, I've got to get rid of all this stuff. I got to simplify my life, and that's kind of how I got there.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. So like right now I'm looking at your apartment. It looks very like put together and all that stuff. I'm kind of imagining back before that happened. Yeah. Was it this organized and all this kind of stuff, or was it?
It probably wasn't, because I took so much stuff to Goodwill. It was not even funny. Like, wow. I got rid, just clothes. I probably took like 8 big trash bags of clothes to Goodwill. It was just kind of like, all right, I need like 7 to 10 shirts. I need some pants. I need some gym clothes, and
that's about it.
Yeah, and it was just part of that like simplification, and knowing that one day if I wanted to pack up shop and leave, I always keep that in the back of my head. Like when I'm like thinking about purchasing something, like one day if I want to pack up and leave, I want to be able to just move, like, and not have a ton of stuff to bring with me.
Yeah.
Having a girlfriend does make that a bit more challenging because my views are pretty extreme on stuff like that. And maybe not a spiritual healer like the person you interviewed earlier, but like, like my minimalistic views and my views on wanting to travel and stuff like that, to some people can be a bit extreme. So like getting my girlfriend in line with that, but she's been super helpful and super like, this is what you want. So like you wanted this before we met, so I'm not going to interfere with that. So
that's actually cool.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky as far as that goes.
That's awesome. And that's actually an interesting thing because I had a similar kind of experience when I did some traveling, because I spent a few months living in Italy one summer, and then I spent a few months living in Spain as an au pair. So I was like hanging out with little kids. I was I was basically like a male nanny that would like hang out with the kids and speak English with them and all that stuff. It was really fun. But when I came back, especially from Spain, that was the second time, and I had like not like a crazy like epiphany or anything like that, but it was like while I was there, I was like, number one, I realized that Spanish people are way more stylish than me, and I felt like a goober because I was just like, dang, I'm just rocking some like not anything like, not where anyone was appalled at my outfit, but it was more like, dang, like all these European dudes like are so stylish and like everyone's got their outfit together, and I'm over here wearing like a baggy t-shirt and some like some baggy shorts. So when I came back, I kind of did the same thing. I like basically took all my, I went to the store to make sure I had new clothes, but then I took all my stuff, pretty much a lot of my clothes. I mean, I still hung on to some things, but took some big old trash bags to Goodwill. Yeah. And also one little thing I did was took them to Plato's Closet, which is like a place where you can get money for some of your clothes and stuff. So they took some of it. So I got some, especially some hats. I had a ton of hats. Yeah. And I was like, I need like 4 hats. Like I do not need like 18 hats. Like there's no way. I don't even wear these. So I got some money for the hats and for some shoes and stuff like that. But cool. But I feel you, man. Like the minimalistic lifestyle, it makes a lot of sense, especially when you're prioritizing your own freedom. Like, because I actually had, it was weird, not in a bad way, but when I was there in Spain, I actually had the vision. I was like, what if my like house burned down while I was over here? I was like, how mad would I be? Because also, I'd be upset because, sentimental value, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, I had all the stuff I needed in my suitcase. Like, I had my computer, even that's replaceable. I had my phone, I had my clothes, I had my, a couple pairs of shoes, and that's all I needed. Yeah. And I like that idea of minimalistic living. Of course, with the limited clothes, especially like you said with your girlfriend, it's a little bit more challenging as a girl, because I think there's a lot more pressure to be stylish and have accessories and have all, multiple outfits and all this
social
stuff.
Pressure.
But also I think if you can, especially for guys, if you can just kind of stick to the basics, like right now I'm wearing just like a plain t-shirt. Like if you wear a lot of like shirts with logos and stuff like that, you're like, oh, I don't want to be the guy wearing this shirt all the time. But if you just wear like plain shirts, like especially a plain gray shirt, you can wear a plain gray shirt every day. No one would even bat an eye.
Zuckerberg, doesn't he always wear like a light blue shirt or something like that? Yeah,
he always just wears like the same shirt, jeans. Yeah. Same with Steve Jobs. He wore like a little mock turtleneck and jeans with his New Balances.
You would never know if it was the same shirt or not.
No, never know. And that's another thing is like, not to go too down the rabbit hole of like style or fashion or anything, but if you kind of keep it simple, there's you don't really need too much.
Yep, for sure.
Get rid of the extravagance. But anyway, so you kind of had that epiphany. Yep. You said you started this side hustle and you were able to pay off what, $35,000 worth of debt. That's insane, dude. Like that's seriously amazing. So what was your side hustle? How did you pick what you were going to do, and how did you execute on all that?
Yeah. So the first one was in. So the first side hustle once I got back from that trip was in the fitness space, but more specifically in the corporate fitness space. So I started a site offering services called Corporate Fit, and more tailored towards people, because I live that environment. That's kind of like my day to day. I understand the complexities and the challenges those people have, and plus, like everybody says, the riches are in the niches. And, I wasn't making a ton of money off of that, but that was kind of like the catalyst to, and actually how I switched into going down this kind true like side hustle, like creating the products and really focusing on that as a niche and moving out of like the fitness. Because when I was doing this, like I was traveling a lot for work. So, I mean, I spent a few weeks in that March in Europe for work, and I was traveling a lot domestically. And I had people ask me like, how are you managing all this? Like, how are you doing everything? Like, you're traveling a lot for work, you got all this going on. And you know, I had to like step back, and I realized like I had a system, but it was just in my head.
Yeah.
And then I ended up putting it on paper, and I just threw one away yesterday. I wish I would have saved it now. But I went in a Google sheet and I like created like this template for like how I was like managing my day. And then I just started using that in my day to day to give myself more structure. And then I was like, you know, like other people could probably use this. And then it just kind of like snowballed from there. And you know,
that's cool. So what was this rudimentary little sheet? Like what was on it? Was it like your schedule? Was it things you were, you know, what was it like?
So you could essentially think about it in like sections. So it was like what do you need to get done in the morning? What are like the top, whatever 4 things you need to get done in the morning? Then like, you know, like some things you're grateful for. Then it breaks your day into like your work day, because you know it was built for me and I have a day job. So it was like, what are the top 3 things I need to get done in the morning, and what are the top 3 things I need to get done in the afternoon? And that was kind of like my work side, and then it shifted to the side hustle side. And like I approached it from like, what are for my side hustle, it was like, what are like the 3 like little things that I need to do today? Not to like get overwhelmed with big tasks, but like, what are 3 little things that I need to get done? And then goes into your night and kind of developing a night routine. But that was kind of like the very beginning stages, and then it blew up from there.
That's awesome. Yeah. So then you were kind of thinking, okay, maybe some other people could use this, because people were reaching out to you asking, like, because like you said, you were doing this corporate fit thing. Yeah. So were any of your friends your clients with that, or like? Yeah,
I had some people that I knew that I was actually training for like competitions and things like that. So
nice.
Yeah.
Was it like bodybuilding or?
Yeah, physique, men's physique, bodybuilding, stuff like that. Yeah. So
that's cool. When did you kind of get into like fitness stuff?
Man, probably seriously in 2012.
Nice.
Yeah, 2012, and
You were in college at the time. Or
yeah, I graduated college in 2010. So nice. So I graduated college in 2010.
So you're out of college, gotcha.
Yeah, and then I like really started taking it serious, and after a few years, like I had some people like asking me questions and stuff like that, and then it like after I was spending like so much time answering people's questions, I was like, all right, let's see if people would like pay me money for this, and that's kind of how that started.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So when you kind of were doing this side hustle thing, like that's another thing that people, it's underestimated of how much effect this has, but your friends and family and stuff will see what you're doing and be like, you know, what are you doing? Like, what are you're making money on the internet?
Yeah.
You know, and now it's becoming more of a norm. Like, but like you said, you went to Africa and you met all these guys who were doing this stuff, and you didn't even realize that there was a possibility of making money, like how they were making money.
Yeah.
So like, what was the reaction from your like friends and family when you started all this kind of stuff?
You know, I honestly, and I still try to keep things out of like my public feed. Like, so like my parents and stuff know, like, and I've told them, and like normal parents are supportive.
Yeah, of course.
And don't like doubt what I'm doing. But like, I really try to keep it out. The only time that I've told anyone like directly about, especially what I'm doing now with Grit and Hustle, is when I launched my Kickstarter. I like posted it on Facebook, but besides that, I really keep it out of. And when I go home and I hang out with friends back home, like I really don't even bring it up, because I'm not one to like brag and stuff like that. So I like, if they ask me about it, like I'll talk about it, and probably talk about it for longer than they wanted me to. But you know, but until then, I don't bring it up. I'm like, what's up, guys? I launched a Kickstarter, raised a bunch of money. Like, you know, that's just not me.
Yeah, so. Yeah. It is an interesting thing, because you're always, you know, worried what your friends and family are going to think or what they're going to say, especially when, you know, it's kind of cool if you're able to kind of keep it under wraps for a little bit, you know, working on a secret project. That's always kind of a fun thing anyways.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing, is sometimes I think people get too overly excited in the beginning before they even have anything tangible, and they lose all their steam because they've hyped up something that doesn't even exist. Yeah. You know, so it's like, put in the work on the front end,
get your thing ready, and then when you launch, that's when you start to create that hype. Kind of like with a podcast, you know, like for me, I like recorded a bunch of them, and then once I launched, I like did this big launch, and you know, people were like, "Whoa, guess he's serious about this thing." You know, where'd this come from? I didn't even know. You know, and so I think that's a cool thing that that's kind of, you kind of kept it under wraps a little bit, because you know, there's no need to like brag and stuff like that.
When I did launch it, you know, I had a couple friends like email me and was like, "Oh man, this looks awesome. Like, how long did this take? And how long have you been working on this?" So, but yeah, just keep it close to the chest for right now. And, you know, there was other people in the online world who don't know me that I was like using as like beta testers and stuff like that, like testing the initial versions. But my, I'll call it my Facebook friends, like I kept that kind of close to the chest.
That makes sense. Okay, so when you went out to create this side hustle journal, right? Yeah. That's the product for Kickstarter. What was, I mean, so your initial idea was that you were successfully doing this on the side. You'd paid off a bunch of debt. You had already kind of created this side hustle. What was the kind of transition of when you, like you said, you kind of realized that maybe people would be interested in your system? What was the kind of steps that you took to like create this into a product?
Yeah, so like I said, I had the Google Sheet at first, and obviously no one is going to pay me for a Google Sheet or just a fancy version of a Google Sheet. So I knew I had to like create more substance around it. And, you know, sitting at a Starbucks one Saturday morning, and I came up with this concept called the molehill system. And I called it the molehill system because, you know, as I was going through these processes with different side hustles and things like that, obviously I'd started like, had friends and things like that also were trying to do things or doing things or wanted to do things. And a lot of times people either never started or they didn't get to where they wanted to go because they looked at what I call like the mountain, and that's like the end goal, and it looks so daunting that it like scares the shit out of people, and they just don't start or they quit really quick. So the concept behind the molehill system was to like take that mountain and like break it down into small little molehills that you could easily kind of come over. And that goes back to what I was talking about when I said like, on the side hustle, it's like these 3 little goals that I need to get done for that day, these 3 little micro goals. And you know, that you do those each day, and it's like compounding interest, right? You do a couple little things each day and it grows and grows and grows. So that's kind of the molehill system. And to expand on that, you've got the backbone behind the molehill system is a couple steps. So you've got determining your why. So why do you want to start a side hustle? What your ultimate goal is. So like what exactly, so for me, example, with the Kickstarter, my ultimate goal was, or my why was, I wanted to travel the world. My ultimate goal was I wanted to launch a Kickstarter for a product. Then you set milestones, weekly goals, and then the daily goals, which are the molehills. And that was kind of the molehill system. And once I had that, I was like, okay, like I'm getting some framework for this journal, right? It's more than just a Google Sheet at this point. Then I went in Canva, which is a free online editing program, and designed this whole 287 page journal in Canva. And then my manufacturer wouldn't take a Canva file, we'll call it. And so then I paid a guy on Upwork like $75, which I felt like I ripped the guy off, and he put it all in Adobe InDesign and actually added a lot more to it. It made it so much better. He like put all these little icons in it and made some of his own tweaks to it. I really feel like I ripped the guy off, but he accepted it. And you know,
the funny thing is, man, with that kind of stuff is you always feel like on the other end, like he might have felt like, ooh, dude, $75 is kind of a lot for this, because this is like, I know how to do this in easy, you know. But for someone who doesn't have the skill set, it's like, dude, I would have paid you like $700 for this, you know? And it's always that like imposter syndrome of like, you don't feel like you're the expert when you're, and the other person feels like you totally are, you know? Just like with, you know, something like supply chain stuff, if I had to, you know, that was one kind of cool thing that ended up, I'm sure this plays into your story, is the fact that you're in the supply chain business. You already kind of knew the idea of how you could get this journal into people's hands because you kind of had that knowledge of it. Whereas for me, somebody like, I can't, like, you know, talking to the manufacturers and all this stuff, it would stress me out because I'm just like not used to dealing with all those moving parts. Like that would be something that would kind of like freak me out a little bit, you know?
Yeah. It's certainly, you know, it's not easy, right? The areas that you're not well versed in can kind of scare you, but he did it and I paid him and apparently he was happy. He's from the Ukraine as well, right? The $75 there isn't $75 here. You know, it's a lot more there. Anyway, did that and had a really good file, sent it over to the manufacturer. You know, got samples, working towards the launch. Actually, the very first podcast I did, that's how I picked my launch date, because I was talking to this guy and he was like, oh, so when do you want to launch? And I was like, he kind of put me on the spot and I was like, oh shit, what am I going to say? And and I was like, November 1st. And then he was like, all right, yeah. And then he was like, yeah, everybody's going to launch on November 1st. And I'm like, oh shit, I just told people, so I got to do it.
Into existence.
So, and I launched on November 1st, right?
Dude, good on you. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. So, when was that you said the November 1st thing?
That was probably 2 months before that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so I launched on November 1st, and a lot happened in between then and launch date. There's a lot that goes into a Kickstarter, but you know, one of my goals was to do everything for under $1,000, to kind of go with the side hustle theme of like, hey, you don't need to have a ton of money in the bank account to get started on something.
Wow.
Like, you can just go out there and do it. So, I mean, I did everything I recorded the video, I designed the page, I did all the PR, I did all the ads, I did everything for under $1,000.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so for under $1,000, you were able to get this badass journal, this like leather bound, awesome looking journal that cost how much for people backing it on Kickstarter? How much?
$25.
So it was a $25 journal these people were paying for. And how many backers did you have? How many?
Total 651, but not all of them paid the 25, but I had 651 people that took out their credit card.
Gotcha. So 651 people did they get a journal in their hand? 651 people got a journal?
Yeah, either a PDF or a hard copy.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that, but I hadn't thought about that. That's actually really interesting. So for under $1,000, you created this thing that 651 people got in their hands and paid you money for it.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty freaking awesome, dude. Like, how did that... I mean, so obviously the Kickstarter and everything went successfully, but like, how did that feel once you launched? Like, that's kind of like the fruits of your labor finally came.
Yeah, to be completely honest, nobody's asked me this question, but to be completely honest, it didn't feel how I thought it would. I wasn't like, oh, I did it. I was just kind of like, all right, what's next? Like, all right, now there's another step, right? You know, and I still don't feel like I've like,
made it.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. There's like, now there's just all these other steps, and you know, and it's kind of like, that's my mindset. It's not one big thing. It's just a bunch of small things. But I just keep seeing, as I reach something, I look again, and there's a bunch of small little steps. So I never had that like jump up. Yes, I was happy. It was cool. Like, my main concern, I didn't want to be embarrassed and have a project fail. Like, I didn't tell a lot of people about a lot of stuff, but I did tell people that I was launching a Kickstarter, and I did not want to be like, oh, Ryan put all these hours into this stuff and it didn't get funded. So
that's always that's no fun.
Yeah.
So you went through this Kickstarter phase and you did this whole Kickstarter campaign and everything. I'm sure you learned a lot about Kickstarter and about the do's and don'ts and stuff. So if anyone out there is listening, they're thinking about maybe doing a crowdfunding thing on Kickstarter, do you have any tips of like what to do, what not to do, pitfalls that you saw or anything? Because I'm actually genuinely curious as well.
Yeah, I would say there's probably a bunch here that I could unpack, but just off the top, like, start early, and the thing that you should probably start early on, it's two things. So a lot of Kickstarter's physical products. That's kind of what it works well with. So get your samples early so that you can start reaching out to people. Because I can tell you, no lie, I probably sent between 400 and 600 emails to people. Just like, you know, I had this canned template that I built out, and then I would go on people's website, and then I would like change the middle paragraph, like based on what their their content was about. So it didn't seem like a canned email. And I would send it out to them just like, hey, like I got this new product. Do you think your audience would like it? That kind of stuff. And, it takes a long time to send 400 emails. Like rest assured. And it's not a list of emails. Like you're finding emails. So that's not like every minute you get a new email. Like I can tell you, no lie, I was on page 60, 70, 80 of Google at times.
That's nuts, man. That's so cool. Like that's the kind of shit that people don't talk about when they're talking about side hustle. They're talking about this, I'm entrepreneurial minded. Dude, they're not talking about the in the trenches of going through. Like that was one thing for me. At one point I was really trying to build up my Snapchat following because I was blessed to be able to be like traveling at the time. And that's one thing that people really resonate with on Snapchat is like travel stories. So I was just basically like, I didn't even care to like add people as my friend because I wanted to watch their stuff or like, trying to impress people or whatever. I was just trying to like get my name out there sort of. So one thing I would do is I would go into groups and like people would say like, oh, drop your Snapchat name, everybody add. I would literally like go in there and like add every single person on Snapchat. And like, that's not like a glamorous thing. That's no fun. Like it sucks to just sit there and like type in names forever. But it's cool because now like, for you were able to send out all these emails and people, you got your name out there and it obviously was a big hit. For me, like it was one of those things where I was connecting because I was in Facebook groups, I was in Instagram comments, like stuff like that, like leave your Snapchat name in the comments. I was in all those types of things. And I was just adding random people because I didn't know who was going to follow me, but it's so cool because now there's people all over the world that like know who I am and like it, not to toot my own horn of like, oh, I'm famous or anything, but it's cool because I have like some sort of influence on those people just because they've like seen me do cool stuff and they're like they think I'm like an influencer or something, and that's the kind of stuff that people don't talk about, like, oh, Andrew, you're so big on Snapchat, but it's like, but the part you didn't see was me typing in a million names. Like that's not fun, but that's like what you kind of got to do because there's no like way to, on Snapchat at least, there's no way for people to discover you, so you got to like add them first sort of. It's kind of weird, but that's cool, man. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's something that people don't want to do that. They don't want to get in they don't want to put out the grind of sending out 400 emails by hand.
There was a lot of in the trenches. I mean, I got blocked from Facebook Messenger. I got blocked from Instagram DM, just because like I found a little hack on Facebook where like I was running in a Facebook ad to just get people to like my page. And when they would like my page, I couldn't send them directly a message from my business page. So I would go into every single person that liked my page from my personal account, add them and send them a message from my personal account and be like, hey, I saw you like my business page. That'd be awesome. Would it be cool if I send you a message on November 1st when it launches? And so I got this big list of probably like 400 to 500 people that I did that one by one. And then on launch day, I tried to go into every single one of them and send them a message. But after about probably 150 messages, I got blocked from Facebook Messenger.
You're trying to send too many of the same messages?
Too many in a certain amount of time is what it was. So I got blocked for like 7 days from...
7 days.
Yeah, I couldn't send... I mean, from my personal account, I couldn't send any messages.
Not even to like your mom or something. No.
And then same thing with DM. Like I was sending so many people DMs. Like you get blocked pretty quick on Instagram. For sending too many DMs.
So what's, just for people listening, the practicality? So do you know what the exact threshold is so people can be careful of that? It's like 150 on Facebook or something like that?
I wouldn't send... I don't know, it probably changes, but I would just be careful. I would send them in batches of like 25. That's probably, I would send a batch of like 25, then I'll wait like an hour and send 25 more. But I was like copy paste.
Yeah,
And then they just they all started getting like little red exclamation marks beside them. And I was like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, so I got blocked. But again, that's the stuff that, people don't want to do because I was adding everyone and sending them each one of them a message. Like it's that kind of stuff is what it takes. And I had to teach myself Facebook advertising. I had to teach myself all this stuff. But it's kind of the in the trenches stuff. That's what separates people, right? Because everybody has to do it. Just not a lot of people want to talk about it. They for like their own like probably marketing purposes. They want to be like, oh yeah, this shit just comes naturally. Like I'm just a natural born entrepreneur. Like no man, at night they're working their ass off.
Yeah, and that's like Gary Vee's always talking about that. Like, he's in the taxis, Snapchatting people back, he's messaging people back in real life. Like, I've gotten messages back from Gary Vee, and that makes me feel cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh shit, dude, Gary Vee messaged me back. Like, that's that's the kind of stuff you got to do if you want to have influence. You want to have people want to you want people to follow you and pay attention to what you're doing. You got to make massive moves and if you want massive results, you gotta take massive action.
Yeah.
So so launch day, and you told me actually, so you got the samples before, but you actually, because of the way that you set it up, everyone that got one from the Kickstarter, they got them, but you hadn't actually seen the final product yet, right?
Yeah, exactly. So right now, so I ordered 1,000 from a manufacturer. The first 100 people on Kickstarter, that's what I call like the early bird tier. So they got theirs kind of before. And to do that, I expedited, FedExed, and paid like an arm and a leg to get 100 journals expedited from China here. So those shipped out end of January. The rest of them, the other 900, are on the water right now coming from China. And they'll get here and they'll go out to all the other backers. But to me, like I don't even have one here right now.
Yeah.
Those 100 came in, they shipped out, and I've got the samples and I've got images from the final products. But I was actually in India when they arrived to my warehouse here in Atlanta, because like we said, I didn't bring them and try to do fulfillment from my condo. So I set up a warehouse and all that, and everything was shipping out, and I was kind of nervous because I was like, oh man, I hope the quality's good,
Yeah.
And so when I made a post in my private Facebook group, I was like, hey guys, I started getting delivery notifications, so I know people were getting them. I was like, hey, a lot of you people should be getting your journal. Like, let me know what you think. And people were like, oh, I got mine. Oh, I got mine. And then I would comment on each one of those comments and say like, hey, be honest with me. What do you think about the quality? What do you think about the journal itself? And people were like, I had like 2 people tell me they would have paid more. And I was like, whoa, that must mean it's okay. And I had a guy message me today and was like, he's actually going to be a guest on the podcast. And he was like, yeah, his wife wants to start a side hustle, but she's been struggling. And I was like, so he's got her the journal. And I was like, so what do you think about it? Like, you have a side hustle, or you're an entrepreneur, like full time. He was like, I'll just put it like this. Like, I'm letting this guide my wife. Wow. He's like, I went through it. He's like, I trust it. I'm letting it guide my wife. He's like, that's the best thing I could say for it. And I was like, oh man, that's fucking awesome.
Dude, that's amazing. That must feel so cool. Yeah. It's crazy because, you created this tool, and that's one thing about creators. Like, I heard it said like, an artist can create a painting and it can affect lots of people, but if you can create a tool that lets other people, that enables other people to do stuff, like, for example, if you were someone that created a Photoshop or something, you're part of that team, who knows how much, even though that's kind of like a technical piece of software, I'm sure it took a lot of creativity to make it, but that piece of software alone has helped millions, billions probably of people to create other amazing art and other amazing stuff. So that's really cool, man, that like your creation that you spent months working on to figure out the exact thing, and now other people are going to be able to go out and use it to create their own side hustle and hopefully launch their own thing.
But and like you were saying, like, how did it feel when it got funded or whatever? Like, and I was like, oh, I didn't jump up, but like the most gratifying part of the whole process has been like I do a bunch of like one-on-one video calls, like 15-minute calls with people, just to like help motivate them, get the ideas out of their head. And that's the most gratifying part, is like hearing those people like one-on-one be like, oh man, like your journal is great, but like, can you help me out with this one thing? And we talk through it. Like, I get off those calls and I'm like, man, like this is what I'm meant to do right here.
That's awesome, dude. That's so cool. Yeah, and conversations like, just stimulate you. Those get you excited. Like, that's why I love doing this podcast, is, I get to talk with people and get to like feed off their energy, and, especially in-person ones, because you can like really, you can really feel it. But I was going to say too, like, with your Kickstarter and stuff, you said you also have this Facebook group of side hustle people, and I know you've been doing some really cool stuff in the group. So kind of tell us like what you're doing with that and how that got started.
Yeah, so part of in Kickstarter, I mentioned that everybody got a physical journal. So the first tier, for $1, you could just get the PDF, but for $4 you could get, the PDF plus access to a private Facebook group. And I actually did some forward thinking on this, and I embedded a 4-digit little code on one of the pages in the journal. So like when you ask to get into Kickstarter group, it's like, what's the 4-digit code on page whatever, and I'm like looking at the top left corner, and there's like real little font, there's like these 4 little numbers up there.
That's pretty genius, dude. That's pretty clever.
Yeah, so I did that, and it's just like really trying to just let people feed off of each other. It's really tough building a community, to be honest, like, or I should say, to get people to be active. So I've tried to do a lot of things, like be really vulnerable about like myself and what I'm doing, and also like give away stuff. Like I've like gave away shirts and coffee mugs, and I've got a poster on my counter that I'm about to do a giveaway on. Just trying to keep people like interacting, and I've had a good bit of people like post in there asking questions and things like that. But it's tough to build a community, but it's moving along, and I'm going to continue to leverage that and give those people opportunities first. Like when I'm working on a course right now, so like I'm going to give them like first dibs at it and things like that. So really want that to be a way that I can like thank them for their support. And I did credits in the back of the journal, so everybody that backed it, I actually put their name in the back of the journal.
That's cool.
So yeah,
that's really cool.
So just trying to do things like that to make people feel like important, and like you can do it too, like that type of stuff.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And another thing that you mentioned to me that's pretty cool that I haven't really heard of people doing, but you're helping people like. Because you've cultivated this group, you're also kind of this like networker guy that connect people.
Yeah.
And you're like giving people accountability partners and stuff like that, and like connecting people that could possibly work together. How did that come about?
Yeah. So the same thing, right? In that second tier where you got access to the group, you also could have the opportunity to get a accountability partner. And essentially what it is I send out people an email. I was like, hey, click on this link, complete the form, and I'll link you up with somebody. And it linked to a Google form. It asked a bunch of questions that helped me like be able to pair people up appropriately. So like, where at in the world do you live? Because there's people from all over the world, and trying to like line up time zones, and like people that have similar side hustles, or people that I think their side hustles could complement. So I kind of did that, and I've paired up at this point between 60 and 70 teams, so 120 to 140 people that have gone through this process and are working together, and really just trying to be that person that connects people. And there's some other things that I'm trying to do as well. As I'm trying to create a platform for people in the community to collaborate with me. So what I mean, one of the things that I'm doing now is I'm reaching out to the people in the community that are in some ways either illustrators, drawers, or graphic designers, and saying like, hey, let's partner. You come up with a badass design. I'll handle all the printing, ordering, marketing, fulfillment, and we'll split it 50-50 down the middle. So it allows me to get some really cool designs for like t-shirts and posters and stuff like that. And it allows them to make money off of their designs and help grow the community bigger. So that's another thing that I'm doing.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love that kind of stuff because, especially I think the world is changing now to the side of small business, not necessarily that we're like abandoning big business, but it's like if there's like a reason why I would do business with you versus like just buying something off Amazon, like just to be candid, there's other success planners out there, there's other whatever little journals that you can buy, but like once you, like you said, getting invested in your thing, their names in the back of the Kickstarter journal, like you took special care to make sure the quality was excellent. Like I think you said that the factory that your journals were printed in was the same as Moleskine, right?
Yep.
That's like that's like a big deal. That's a pretty big name, So taking all those little extra details is really what I think makes yours stand out over others.
Yeah. It definitely could have got it probably about half the cost, to be honest, that I paid for. But I was like, man, like, I don't want to put anything out there that's like crappy, because that like reflects on me, not only like the design, but the actual quality. So I ended up paying almost double another sample that I got. And to be honest, the difference wasn't that vast, but to me it was like, if I can get somebody that I know is going to put out a high quality product, I'm going to do it. And people have apparently noticed. So.
For sure. That's amazing, dude. Because that's another thing is people pay for an experience more than they want to just pay for a product. Like for example, you'll see it with clothes. Like, you know, for example, lots of like little cool companies will do like a little pop-up shop at this place and it'll have like a theme or something. And rather than the clothes just being like, okay, cool, the clothes are cool, but like the fact that you got to go into this cool little store and buy the clothes and it was this whole experience. Or, you know, for example, you know, with like your book, like the experience of being part of the Kickstarter and getting their name in it and being part of the group, like that's an experience they get to have rather than just buying some, you know, product that doesn't really have any kind of substance to it, you know. And I think that you know, especially in today's day and age, people realize like we have access to millions of resources. Like, you know, if I want to get a journal, I want the best journal I can get. And so all those little details add up. And so even though, you know, it might cost, you know, this guy 2 cents to make the journal, is probably going to fall apart after a while. You know, like for example, I even showed you, like I had this little success journal that this guy gave me, and not to shit on them or anything, but you know, it fell apart after a while. I was actually using it. I was actually putting the thing in and a bunch of the pages fell out. And I'm like, well, I don't want to carry this around anymore. And you know, like all those little details is really important.
For sure.
And for me too, like once you put your name out there, you know, you don't want to put something out that's, you know, you can only make one first impression. So if you half-ass it on the way out, no one's going to be more excited about your product than you. So if you put out a half-assed design, people are going to be less ecstatic than you are. And that's actually something that to kind of go on a different tangent slightly. But one thing I see, I'm a big guy with music festivals. I love going to music festivals. One thing that I always see that separates the wheat from the chaff, as they say, like, you know, a music festival in its first year that skimps on everything and doesn't actually live up to all the expectations and blah, 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 you know, all that, it's probably not going to be around for much longer. Even though they might turn a profit on that first year, they're probably not going to stick around. The festivals that stick around for years and years and years are the ones that don't turn profits until year 3 and 4 because they've fought nail and tooth to give the best experience up front for those first few years, and people keep coming back. And they're the ones that reap the real benefits long term, because instead of just a quick cash grab, this is something actually amazing. And that's actually something, for a specific example, there's a music festival in Ohio called Lost Lands, and it was its first year last year. And this artist named Excision, he like was the brainchild of it and everything. And like, I couldn't believe like he had a Facebook group for it and everything. He would be in there every day, like answering questions, you know, like, you know, people had concerns. He and his team were constantly in there. And even when shit hit the fan, like at the festival, like stuff was going wrong, they were in the Facebook group, like answering people's questions in real time, like just showing that they actually gave a fuck about the people that paid money to come to their event. Like that is just insane how many festivals and events and stuff that don't do that kind of stuff, and just kind of like, oh great, we have your money, you're here now, deal with the problems, deal with the shit. Like they were in the trenches, like trying to make sure that everyone was happy, everyone was excited, and like they went on pre-sale. Like the pre-sale sold out like immediately, like right after, you know, for the next year. And it just goes to show, like taking care of your customers and really giving them an amazing experience. Like it's just, you can't put a monetary value on that kind of stuff.
And I can tell you, man, customer service is tough. Even just with this Kickstarter, I think there's people that buy stuff on Kickstarter that don't understand the concept that it doesn't exist yet and that you're almost pre-ordering it. Like I've got like hate messages, man. Like, you know, I've been checking my mail every single day and it's still not here. I'm like, if you look at the Kickstarter, it says it's not going to deliver till February, the end of February. It's not the end of February yet. Like I haven't done anything wrong. And like people like text messaging me because I have a Google Voice number set up to where, and people like really like upset. Like I've probably got like 4 or 5 people like seriously upset. Like, you know, like we're trying to start a side hustle and like we can't do it. I'm like, I gave you the PDF. We don't want the PDF. I'm like, man, like
that's actually kind of a testament to how awesome your product is. If people think that they can't start their side hustle without the journal,
yeah.
like hello, I'm over here. I started this side hustle and I created a journal. So like, there's a way that you can do it without the journal.
Yeah, but on the other extreme, there's people who are like, oh man, I'll wait till, next November if I have to get this. Like, oh, like I can tell it's so awesome. So, I mean,
that's great, man.
You're always going to have those people. But,
I mean, I hate the quote. I don't even want to say who said this quote because it's just a stupid person. But he said, you can't please everybody, or he said, I don't know the key to success, but pleasing everybody is not the key to success. Like, you can't please everybody. You're always gonna have same thing with this podcast. Like some people, oh, it's too long. Oh, it's too short. You should go longer. Oh, you should be more structured. Oh, you should be more freeform. Oh, you should do ads. No, never do ads. It's like you're never gonna please everybody. So you just gotta like keep your nose to the grindstone and just do your thing.
Yep. Stay in your lane.
Exactly. Grit and hustle.
Yeah. There you go.
That's awesome, man. Well, cool. I feel like this is a good place to kind of like wrap things up. I feel like we touched on a lot of stuff. Is there any other things that you think we missed, or any kind of like closing message or anything like that?
I think we hit on a bunch of stuff, which was cool. We talked about a little bit of everything, but I guess I'll just close out with, you hear this a lot, and I hate that I'm going to repeat it, but it's like, just start. Like if you want to get out there and you want to do something, like just take a step forward and realize that, you've got this mountain in front of you, which is your goal, but you don't have to get there on day one. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Just take a couple small steps forward, celebrate those little victories, and just do something you love, right? Don't sit back and be hostage to the corporate world. And, no matter how good the company is doing that you're working at, or you're doing at the company that you're working at, that company could have, a mishap or bad financial reporting. They may have to do a layoff, and, it doesn't matter how good you were doing. So you could get laid off. So I would say get out there, start a side hustle, take little steps, and create some career insurance for yourself.
I love that, dude. Yeah, that was one thing we didn't touch on, is that career insurance. I love that, because you never know when shit's going to hit the fan. You got to have a backup plan.
Yep.
And also, I posted a Facebook status about this the other day, incidentally, before we even met. But we were talking, I posted a status about side hustles, and I said, seems like everyone these days has a side hustle. What's stopping you from creating yours, or something like that? And I said, what's stopping you from taking your side hustle to a full hustle? I think that's what I said. And my friend said, side hustle plus full hustle equals more money, or full-time job plus side hustle equals even more money. Yeah. And I'm like, damn, that's true. Like, you're a testament to that. You worked your full-time job, you worked your side hustle, and you were able to pay off $35,000 of debt and everything. Yeah. And how long did it take you? 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months. Yeah.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, obviously, if people want to get your side hustle journal, that's what it's called, right? The official name, side hustle journal. If they want to order it, can they still go to Kickstarter? Where do they find it? Yeah, so you could go to Kickstarter, or you could go directly to gritandhustle.co. You'll find it on there. Also a blog, link to the podcast once it launches. But yeah, you could find the journal on there and pick it up. Nice. And your podcast is going to be talking to other people who currently have side hustles, all that kind of stuff, right? Yep. That's the idea behind it right now. Is I'm going to be talking to either people that have side hustles currently, or have stopped side hustle and moved to a full hustle within just the past 3 years. So, and it's going to be called Hustle to Freedom. Hustle to Freedom. Yeah. I like that, dude. Yeah. That's awesome. That's a good name. I feel like you can resonate with that. Yeah. So Hustle into Freedom. That's cool, man. Well, also, if people want to follow you, and can they join the Facebook group without buying the journal, or what's the deal with that? Yeah. So to ask you a question, and you can put anything in the question. What do you want them to put in the question? They can put anything in there, and I'll let them in. Oh, okay. So, like a secret code, secret code for the podcast. Yeah. Put in. I kind of want to do something funny, like I don't know. I don't know. Just put in AD podcast. That'll keep it pretty simple. AD podcast, Andrew Deitch podcast. Yeah. So you can find that page just in the search bar on Facebook. Just type in Grit and Hustle, and you'll see the private group, and click join. It'll ask you a question. It'll ask you for that 4-digit code, but just put in AD podcast, and you'll let you in. But anywhere on social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you can find more at Grit and Hustle CO. Nice. Perfect, dude. Any other, I feel like we wrap things up pretty great. Any other last final closeout?
Nope, I'm good, man. Awesome. I appreciate you having me on. It was a blast.
Dude, of course. Well, this is really fun. Thanks for being on the podcast, and we'll talk to you later, everybody.
See you.
Boom. There it is, folks. Thanks for checking out the podcast. Make sure you go join the Facebook group and type in AD Podcast for the answer to that little question there. That group is a great community for all side hustlers. Also, go check out gritandhustles.co to grab your copy of the Side Hustle Journal. Also, make sure you follow them so you can catch the launch of the Hustle to Freedom podcast. I've heard some previews, and it's going to be freaking awesome. I'm actually one of the first guests, and Ryan and I talked about what it takes to get a successful podcast off the ground. I'm super pumped for that to come out. But all right, you made it to the end. That's super exciting. Super pumped about that. I know you got massive value from our conversation, and the fact that you made it to the end is a very good indication that you've enjoyed this episode. So now that you've found your new favorite podcast, where do you go? There's like 80 other episodes you can choose from, go listen to. But if you want to hear another episode that has the same kind of flavor as this one, I have a couple of recommendations for you. Number one, I would highly recommend episode 56 with George Yu. He's a very successful guy who has done a lot of interesting things, but namely, he is the founder of a company called Wind Pouch. And Wind Pouch, you've probably seen them before, but they're like those inflatable hammock couch things. But if you haven't, you can Google them. But anyways, George was actually asked to come on Shark Tank, and he got chosen by Mark Cuban for 20% of his company for $500,000. So I think it's safe to say that he's doing pretty big things. He told me all about his experience at Shark Tank and all kinds of other fun stuff as well. He was also on Ty Lopez's Instagram story the other day too, so check that out. That episode is called Mark Cuban Picked Him on Shark Tank. Also, I would recommend episode 49 with Alan McNairn. Alan's the owner and founder of Orange Identity, a company that is focused on helping brands find their voice and tell their story in a simple and elegant way. And since recording this episode, I've actually listened to it again. I got so much value a second time, and I've already implemented a lot of his ideas and strategies, and I think you guys are going to love it, get a lot of value from it. Whether you're a business owner or maybe you just want to take your Instagram game to the second level, or the next level, I should say. Again, that was episode 49 with Alan McNairn. All right, episode 80 will be coming out later this week with my friend Stephanie Jewett. We are getting close to that sweet 3-digit number, and I'm so stoked. I don't know why. I just really want to get to episode 100. It's just like a big milestone to me. But anyways, we're getting close. Stephanie is the creator and founder of Actively, an app designed to help you find workout buddies in your area. It's really cool to see what she's done as a founder and how she's helping inspire and empower other women. I'm meeting up with her later this week to record that episode, so I'm super excited for our chat. And if you want to support the show, go to iTunes, rate it 5 stars. That would be really, really helpful. I read all of the reviews there, iTunes being the number one place for people to discover podcasts. It's kind of an annoying platform, to be honest, but if you go and just rate it 5 stars, that would be super, super helpful for me. Also, if you want to follow me, you can go to my website, andrewdeitsch.com. That's Andrew, DEITSCH.com. But that's all I got. Thank you guys so much. You guys are the freaking best. Keep sending me feedback. I absolutely love it when I hear from you guys, so thank you. Also, you can subscribe to the email list where I send out an email every time a new episode comes out, so you never miss an episode. Thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you in the next one.
We're trying to start a side hustle, and like we can't do it. I'm like, I gave you the PDF. We don't want the PDF.